Hi there, welcome to episode 2. This is going to be week 1 after my ostomy surgery. So, as you know, my channel is going to focus on an active lifestyle after an ostomy. And when I was younger, I thought that having an ostomy would be disabling, but it is far from that. And I know that I'm going to be even more active than I was before I got my ostomy. So I'm so excited to be on this side of of the the valley. I'm going up. I'm going up high. So anyway, welcome. And as I explained in my last video, I have Crohn's disease. And I had tried many biologics, but none really resolved my incontinence. So I decided to have my colorectal surgeon to put an ileostomy on. So it's not my first one. In 2010, I had a bowel resection and I had an ileostomy put on just right where my belly button is, like to the right of it. And just if you don't know, an ileostomy is where they take your small bowel and they just make an opening in your skin, and then you wear a pouch to collect your waste. And it's at first it seems like that sounds terrible, but it's really not that bad compared to having incontinence and always wondering where's the bathroom. You're scared that you're going to have an accident. I was in the airport recently, this close to losing everything in front of everybody. So um, now that I'm on this side, I'm so happy, and so I just want to share with you um, some of my experience. So I'm just going to jump right in. So prepping for surgery, as you can imagine, prepping for abdominal surgery is basically the same thing you do when you have a colonoscopy, right? So it's very dehydrating, and even that morning, my daughter came to pick me up to take me to surgery, and I was just leaking stool. I mean, just liquid. I was wearing a pad. I was like, oh, just get me to the hospital. So we got to the hospital, and of course, you're naked. You put your gown on, and then they put a pad on the bed, and of course, I just kept messing that up. I'm just so grateful for my nurse that was there. She was so sweet and completely understanding. But I was in there, they were prepping me for the surgery, and I was just like, oh, just please hurry, please hurry. And then when they gave me the sedative, I was just so blissful and happy. But the surgery went perfectly, had a great surgeon in Atlanta. Um, I live in Carrollton, which is near Atlanta, Georgia, and this was at Emory. So great job. Stayed in the hospital a couple of days, and then I went home, right? And I really thought I was prepared. I had bought some ostomy supplies because I knew I'd have maybe a couple from the hospital, but not a lot. So I bought what I thought I would need. And then also I knew I was going to need to, drink, work on my electrolytes, and have some healthy food and that kind of thing. So I had, prepared and bought that. So, but you know what I was unprepared for was the amount of loose stool that would be going into my ostomy. I was just eyeballing it. I wasn't really keeping account of how many milliliters that were coming out. I knew it was a lot for sure, and it was completely watery. And but I was drinking, but I just wasn't keeping up with. I had more output than I had input, and it wasn't until I landed back in the hospital that somebody told me the term high output ostomy. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, because I never really heard that term before. When I had an ostomy before, I just didn't have the output that I had this time. But I also had home health helping me that came a few times, but they just didn't have the tools, that they needed to show me how to take care of a high output ostomy. They didn't really. use that term. No one really said, "Hey, you really have too much output. You need to get this taken care of. You need to slow it down." I didn't know, and they didn't say anything. And then because I was having such high output, my bags weren't. They just kept coming off because it just, all the liquid and the heavy, and I started getting red around my stoma, and like under stoma is the little part that pokes out of your skin. I named mine Rose because it looks like a rose. But so underneath that part, it was very red and raw, and I was just having a really tough week. Home health came out and helped me a couple times, like I said, but they just didn't have the resources. I learned that because once I'm going to tell you my journey because I end up in the hospital. And when I end up in the hospital, I have wound care, a dietitian, and some other people that really helped me out at my local hospital. So, but that week was really really hard. I had two major problems. One, I had too much liquid leaving my body. I didn't have enough going back in. I wasn't keeping up with it, so I didn't really know how much was going out and what I was putting back in. And I didn't really have any instruction on how to slow the output. Didn't even really understand that I needed to slow it. So I just didn't get, and I also didn't have the right supplies to take care of that raw area that I was telling you about. So the result was on that Sunday, I was very nauseous that morning. I mean, very, very nauseous. Didn't really feel like eating. I was drinking some, ate a little bit, but just as the day kept going on, it got worse and worse, right? So I finally was like, oh gosh, I've got to lay down. I'm exhausted. So I did, and then I just started having these spasms in my legs and in my left arm. I didn't really know what that was. It felt kind of like what I would think that restless leg, feels like. But they just kept spasming, and I was very dizzy, nauseous, extremely nauseous. So, I have two grown daughters, but they were both out of town during this time. They were both traveling, and so I would try to get up to take care of myself, and I just felt like I was going to pass out every time. And then I was just laying there, and my body just told me there is something wrong with you. You have to get help. You can't let this go. So I was like, oh, what do I do? My daughters are out of town. I really couldn't get in touch with a friend or whatever. I definitely couldn't get up to drive myself. So I had to just, had to dial 911, which I really didn't want to do because I knew they would send the fire department and the ambulance and but I had to do it. I didn't have me. I just knew I had something was wrong with me. So about four strong, gorgeous firemen, rescue guys come into the back of my house, and I just started crying, because I was so grateful to have help. And then the paramedics got there, and then so I was just trying to explain. I couldn't. My head was very fuzzy. I could not articulate a lot of what was going on with me. So finally, they get me in the back of the ambulance, and the good thing about calling in the ambulance is you get treated right away. So if I had had a friend take me to the emergency room or I drove, I would have had to wait hours to be seen and treated because the hospital was very, very busy that night. They were at capacity. But anyway, so I got in that ambulance. They started fluids, and then they gave me Zofran, which really helped me with the nausea and the dizziness that I was feeling. I still felt really bad, foggy, whatever, but that helped me to get through it. So anyway, got to the hospital. They did all the tests, the blood work. I had a CT scan and a chest X-ray. Finally, the doctor walks in and he said, "I don't want you to be alarmed, but your sodium level is very, very low, 114, and we have to treat that in the ICU." I was like, "What? The ICU?" I had never been in the ICU before. So They rolled me in there. It was just like the TV shows, like ER in the pit. I mean, it was all hands on deck. I had 4 or 5 people around me who get me up doing different things. And so they watched me very carefully over the next 24 hour. A nephrologist came in, which is a kidney doctor. She explained to me that they couldn't just give me a lot of fluids and electrolytes and sodium, to get my sodium levels up, because if they do it too quickly, it can damage your brainstem. And gosh, I didn't know that. Um, I really did not know how much sodium helps regulate your body. I just had no idea. I have since learned that if your levels fall too low, you can go into a coma, you can have seizures, or even die from it. So it's a very serious condition, and I'm very glad that I did call 911 and I ended up in the ICU where they could help me. So they watched me over the next 24 hours. Then my sodium came up enough to where they could put me in a regular room, but I still stayed there all week, getting my levels up. But it was kind of like a wellness retreat, honestly. It was wonderful for me, and I want to tell you why. First of all, I saw a dietitian. She came in, she gave me some rehydrating recipes, and also these other recipes at home I could make, like some broth and soups and things like that I can make myself, so I know what goes in them, right? But I want to share my favorite rehydrating recipe, and I brought this home from the hospital. This is a cup that has ounces and milliliters on it. So one full cup is 1,000 milliliters, or 1 liter. So every single day I use this. You put a half a teaspoon of salt in the cup, and then you put one and one half cup of sports drink, which could be any sports drink, but I like the Gator Light, and this is the blue. You can see I'm almost done for today. This is the cool blue. And then you put 2.5 cups of water on top of that, and that makes 1 whole liter. And you don't drink it all at once. You just sip on it throughout the day, and that'll help keep you hydrated and will give you that sodium that you need. So that was a great lesson. Had no idea. And then number two, wound care at my local hospital was very, very good, and they were very familiar with high output ostomies. In fact, they came into my room and said I was losing a whole liter, or between a liter and 1,500 milliliters every day for my output. So just getting that much back into me was something that I wasn't doing. And that's the first time I heard the words, high output ostomy. And she said that's what you have, and you have to learn to regulate this. And so I was willing to do anything that they told me to do. So what I thought I would do is share my regimen that they put me on. I'm still using it every single day. So the first thing is Imodium. Um, I cannot pronounce this. Y'all probably can, but it's a prescription for Imodium. It's 2 milligrams for each tablet. So what I do is first thing in the morning, I take 2 milligrams of loperamide is what it's called, um, and then along with that, they put me on this Bananatrol, which is banana flakes. I'd never heard of this. So you can see in there's little banana flakes. And what you do is there's this little dipper, and you do one scoop to 4 ounces of applesauce. Doesn't matter what kind of applesauce you use. I like these little 4 ounce pre-measured cups, because if you buy a whole jar, then you're going to have to measure it out yourself. So I just like these. They're 4 ounces. And then I've learned that if I use a scoop that I have, it makes it a little bit thicker, and then that helps in turn to make my output thicker. So instead of water, what you want is applesauce consistency. And this is something that will help get you there. And I take this in the morning and at night, so 12 hours apart. So you could do 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 8 a.m., 8 p.m., however you want to do it. But this has been really great, and it doesn't taste that bad. At first, I was like, ugh. But you just do what you need to do, right? So that has helped me a lot. The other thing that I do is I take a powder, and I do not know what I do with it. Hold on for 1 second. I'm back. Got my glasses. So this is cholestyramine. It's an oral suspension. It's also called Questran, and it's a powder. You put it in 4 ounces of water and stir it up. Stir it up. You can also use 6 ounces if you want to, but I use 4 because honestly, this does not taste very good. It's very grainy. So I just do 4 ounces. I mix it up as best I can, and then I just down it because it doesn't taste good. Um, I've tried putting some different flavors in it. I haven't figured out what is right yet, so I just pretty much mix it up, down it. It's done. It's just kind of something I have to, I'm just dealing with it because I need to do it for my health. Okay, so I do just to recap, I do the 2 milligrams of loperamide, then I do 4 ounces of the bananatrol into 4 ounces of, I'm sorry, use 1 scoop of the bananatrol and put that into 4 ounces of applesauce. And then I use this powder packet and 4 to 6 ounces of water. And I do that every single morning, and it really does well. You really will get that applesauce consistency to your output, and it's really great. I was so grateful when I just saw it slowing down, and it really helps. You feel a lot better because you're not constantly emptying, and you can just empty a few times a day versus like every hour, you know. Also, a tip that they gave me was have your last meal of the day around 7 p.m. and that way you're not losing fluid all throughout the night. And if you can get it to that applesauce consistency, I mean, you should be able to sleep all night instead of like waking up at 3 o'clock to empty your ostomy bag, you know. So I've been doing pretty good. I've been only, having maybe 200 milliliters in there after a whole night, but it's applesauce consistency. So, I mean, that's not bad. That is not bad at all, and I'm sleeping all night, which is so nice, so very, very nice. I have heard of that you can buy a draining system to sleep with. I haven't looked into that, but I've heard of people doing that. But I think this works. Well, it works for me, and I hope it would work for you. So, let me give you the key takeaways from today. Key takeaways is you've got to record your output versus your input. You just have to do it. I use a whiteboard and I just put a line down the middle. I write output, input, and then I put, I was going to show you for my output. This is a beaker I got from the hospital. It has, the ounces right here, and you can empty your ostomy bag into this. So you can measure how much is coming out and then write that on the whiteboard. And then you can clean this every single time. Just, pour it in the toilet, swish some water in here, and then, you can clean it out every time. You don't have to have it sitting there all day like you do in the hospital waiting for the nurse to to record it. Yeah, so you can just record it yourself. So these are great. I did get this from the hospital, but I'm sure you could find something like this on Amazon. So that's how I track my output, and then I put it on the whiteboard. As far as input, I mean, if you're using one of these, you could easily tell. Like I can tell that I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 550 milliliters today. I'll probably drink the rest of this in just a few minutes. So, and then I'll put that on the whiteboard, and I put my 2 milligrams of loperamide on there. Loperamide, the bananatrol, and the Questran. I put all that on the board. I don't really put what I eat for lunch or anything like on there. I don't put that on there. But every time I take one of my 3 things, I'll put that on there. So I know that I took it. And then, and I try to keep up with, or I do keep up with the liquid. Like, and if I have a tea from Zaxby's or something like that, I'll put down the ounces. So I really keep up with it all the way to about 8 or 9 p.m. and then I'll start over. So I hope that will help you. Next time I want to address another problem that I had, which is where my skin around my ostomy was really red and raw, and it has healed up so nicely. And so I've got a good technique I'll teach you. You've probably heard of it, but I'll show you what I do. And until next time, I see the light in you.